I don't really want to get gonorrhea, though. Like, that doesn't sound pleasant.
But also, I'm at the end of my life, so might as well, right?
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined, as always, by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Denny Hughes. We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. What the duck, Denny?
Yeah. I was going to do the whole show as a duck, but I just changed my mind. So.
That is simultaneously the best and worst idea I've ever heard. That would be hilarious. It would get old very fast, and then it would get funny again, and then Christian Shaw is a horse, and we'd have to figure out exactly how funny it was. It's good to see you guys. It's good to see
You too.
Your lovely faces, to hang out, talk about Sin stuff like we do. It's good to see our Sin Club members in the live chat. If you would like to be part of that, we actually stream live video of this show to our Sin Club members at the peeper level and above. So if you want to check out all those details, you can certainly check out the Sin Club details at patreon.com/Sin Club. And very exciting to have you here live with us and enjoying what's going on. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the stuff we are sending in general. We'll start with commercial sins. Denny's Nannerpuss brings us...
Oh, I thought you were calling Denny there for a second.
I did too. I'm called Denny so much.
This is Danae's Nannerpuss
No.
we're talking about today.
No.
I just now realized how that sounded. That was not intentional.
I believe you.
After I said it.
I believe you. Yeah, so let's talk about this very strange banana octopus on a stack of pancakes.
So let's start by this. Someone decided on the team that it would be a good idea for Denny to assign commercial sins for the team for a little while. So rather than it being sort of a, hey, if you see a commercial, send the commercial, add it to the folder, we'll get to it. We kind of shifted gears into more of what we do with TV sins and commercial sin, or TV sins and cinema sins, where we have assignments. And so I went through and watched 30, I think, commercials, and I, with the filter of, who on the team do I think would enjoy sinning this? You know, kind of.
Oh, I thought it was random. Now I'm really curious why you assigned the couple to me. I looked at the first two you assigned to me. I have questions.
Yeah. So the first thing I should say is that the pool that I pulled from for this part of the commercial sins experiment that we're in were all fan suggested. So
yeah.
The first time we launched commercial sins, there was a lot of feedback both on YouTube, but specifically on Twitter. And I just started copying and pasting all of them. And I thought it would be fun to start there so that the fans, you know, if they're really watching all of them, that they get to see that we did do what they asked. And so, yeah, the pool was a really interesting pool to pull from. I just watched it. And when I saw Nannerpuss, I instantly knew it needed to be Jeremy.
Yep, Jeremy wrote on this one, and when I say wrote, I mean he wrote the editors a nice little paragraph of what
I
to
can't wait to hear your favorite sins from this one. Not that I haven't said that before now.
Guys, did you know that the puss stands for octopus in Nannerpuss?
I did not know that, Aaron. Thank you.
Whoa.
This is going to make no sense.
Just to let those listening to the podcast know, there may be some outtakes where we already talked about Nannerpuss, possibly. Yeah. So, yes.
How can you not talk about Nannerpuss? It's Nannerpuss. I'd never heard of this, by the way. Had either of you?
No, I
don't remember
that's
this.
Not a surprise that I hadn't seen a commercial, but yeah.
Well, it looks like this was another one where it kind of like, I guess, for different reasons, but I guess kind of like that Kylie Jenner one or whatever we did, you know, it aired on a Super Bowl and then it never aired again. Like they never, it was supposed to be like a mascot or something. And I guess there was so much bad reaction to it that it was like, we're not doing that anymore.
I have this.
It was like Denny's annoyed.
I have this back and forth thing. There's what Jeremy sent in officially. He said, I have never seen this commercial before. Now it's horrifying, but it's also horrifying from a marketing perspective. This is literally, quote, let's do something so effing weird that people will be disturbed. Then we slam our logo in their face, unquote. Skittles ads have been doing this for years, but they're much better at it than Denny's. It's so bad, I didn't even write any sins. I just wrote a trilling sin counter noise and ordered over 4,000 sins to be attributed. There's not much reason for me to say anything more here than I did in the video itself. His notes to the editors are the other side of this. Like, I kind of want to read them because it's
there was one
so funny.
The one part I definitely wanted to read because there's already been this actually, when we record this, isn't live. Commercial Sins doesn't go live until after we record Behind the Sins. But there's already some comments from the Sin Club members who have seen it already about like why this number, like, you know, that kind of thing. And I just want to tell you, he addresses that in the notes he wrote to the editors. He says, let's have it result in something like 4,358 sins, give or take.
Give or take.
It's like, what do you mean give or take? You just gave such a specific number.
Somewhere in that ball.
The answer is no. It just came out of the randomness of Jeremy's brain in that regard.
Yeah.
But,
So I was reading this article about Nannerpuss because I had looked this earlier, and it said that when Denny's tried to capitalize on Nannerpuss by giving the character his own Twitter account, it backfired, with Nannerpuss tweeting increasingly disturbing and inappropriate thoughts.
Oh my God.
It sounds like Denny's was really trying to latch on to social media because at the same time you had stuff like the Burger King, the creepy King character, you know, and then there was something else that was mentioned, and these were like creating memes and GIFs and stuff. Or GIFs, whatever. So I think that Denny's was trying to capitalize on that and trying to kind of work their own end of that, and where that's usually just a happy accident when stuff like that happens, but Denny's was trying to create it and it just kind of backfired on him.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the name.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I thought I find these funny and clever. We do, we've done them with music video sins before, that kind of thing. Any short content like that, I think you can have some fun with it. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Did you guys have anything else?
I just wrote, because I the way I do my notes, I have bold and underlined whatever I'm talking about, the commercial sins, Nannerpuss, and then under that I'll start with one, and I have to write a note. And since I couldn't just leave it blank because I'm a weirdo, I just wrote funny.
Do you know what I did? Because I typed notes next to mine. My note just says funny stuff. So listen.
Mine just says stuff. I'm kidding.
That would be amazing. That would be incredible.
This was one where when I watched, I was like, I really appreciate this. It's clever and unique. And you're watching it going, am I just rewatching the commercial? And then there's a reaction. Part of me wanted to, work in conjunction with the editor so that every time the little arm flapped up, there was like a flinging of sins that were just flinging around the screen, and like really do something, but it's just so disturbing and it happens so quickly. It's it's the perfect reaction sins. So fun stuff. It just goes to show we like to have fun and change things up from time to time.
Indeed. Let's move into TV sins. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is back, so we send another Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode.
Final season.
They announced it's the final, or they're
it's the final season.
Okay.
The new season is it's the final season. I think and I think a lot of when all the just a lot of real life stuff happened to where I think they were having a hard time figuring out how they could
be funny.
Still be funny, and I guess we'll see what they do on the final season. But it's I get it, but it's also kind of sad. But
such a great show.
Yeah,
such
you
a
have
great
to
show.
just like say goodbye at some point in time.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, there's always an end for things.
And this is a show that has fought to survive. I mean, it's switched networks and all kinds of stuff. So
was it the fan base that brought it back? Do I remember that correctly?
No, they played it like that a little bit, but honestly, this was something where the production company wanted to move it to their own network anyway, so they were not upset when NBC or whichever direction it went.
Well, and I think networks are just having to change so much because of just, not as many people are watching them. So they're having to, and you used to, I don't know why this ever happened, but you used to have like Fox would air a show that CBS owned. I've never even understood why they would do that, but that happened all the time. And I don't think it happens as much anymore because as little revenue as they're getting, they don't want to lose more.
Well, and then you add in like streaming rights and that kind of stuff, and you're it's better if we just own the whole kit and caboodle, and then we can have it on our streaming site forever. And you're seeing a lot less of that. But yeah, it wasn't. I think it was kind of understood that's what was happening even when it was canceled. I don't think there was very much time at all where they thought they were going to be done.
It was immediate.
Yeah. So we did the Pontiac Bandit Returns. This was episode 10 of season 2, a Doug Judy episode, which are some of the fan favorite episodes.
Craig Robinson. This was a Dicer Hughes script. Danae and I writing on this one.
It was written approximately 7,000 years ago.
That is worth mentioning, I guess. We did write this a long time ago.
So long ago. I'm like, it's one of those that we've just had done that I keep looking over going, when can I archive this Slack channel? When are we going to finally post this video?
Yeah, I can tell that behind the scenes. I can tell that story from why that happened if you think people will find that interesting.
And that's why they're here.
Okay, so basically what happened was Brooklyn Nine-Nine has been a successful show for us, so we wanted to do some more of them. We put this one on the schedule as, one to do. And it just so happened to go on the schedule right at the same time as we were trying to, it happened to land in production right at the same time that we were trying to get ahead and do things to keep going. And then in that process, we learned the debut date of the new season. And we were like, well, it makes sense to drop it with the new season. So then we pushed it even further back. A couple months even further back. So it just kind of it rode the wave to eventually be tentpoled with the new season. Yeah.
We locked the script in May.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just been sitting there waiting.
Yeah. That's 3 months.
I do every now and then. I'll see something get archived, and I'll be like, "Man, when did we do that? Like, did they just forget about it?" Like,
I'm like, oh my gosh, just sitting here forever.
Danae, why don't you kick us off? What are some of your thoughts on watching this episode, if you can remember, and some of your favorite sins?
Yeah, this is one where I, as a person who I don't watch the show, I'm obviously missing context a little bit with the Pontiac Bandit Returns. Obviously, I missed the first time that this was a thing, but obviously there's a recurring character, then this recurring interaction. And so I kind of had to just put on my pretend face like, oh, haha, it's so funny. The rapport back and forth between Peralta and the Pontiac Bandit, I think was meant to be really funny. I just didn't find it funny at all.
Oh, it didn't work for you.
Well, but I don't have any idea of where it came from before.
Right.
I think the idea is that you've got these certain characters that come in for guest appearances, and this is just a fun one, where he kind of keeps getting us away and he keeps escaping. But it makes no sense that he would be able to escape. And if the idea is that they both this Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they both do a really good job at their jobs sometimes, but then they also fail miserably sometimes. This is an example where you shouldn't have it both ways, because if the entire police department is dependent upon this one sting operation going well, they would not have let anything like what we saw happen. Right. So it requires us to suspend and just not ask questions and go along for the ride, while also saying, well, then just make this not the most important bust. Make this not the most important thing that is happening in the police department right now. It seemed like there's so much riding on the bust of this case, and the Pontiac Bandit or whatever, ruins it. So it just didn't work for me. And I kind of get bummed about that, but it was fun to sin too, which those types of things make it easy. I also am missing the context of these characters. Like, what was the B story here? That the two of them, their parents are falling in love or something. What were their names?
Yeah,
I can't remember the names of the characters.
It's slipping my brain right now. The Joel Vitruglio character and Diaz.
Yeah. So the fact that there's this sort of story of these two people that kind of don't get along, but their parents are dating and they're exchanging a gift. even
But
that.
those characters dated on the show, right? Were they dating at this point?
That was the whole point. Yeah, the whole point was that they're this weird couple that just happened somehow, and now their parents are together after that.
And one of my least favorite pairings.
So it's just strange
on the series.
Yeah.
Both actors are awesome, and the characters play off each other well. It was just pairing them up in a relationship. It didn't work, but it happens.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other part too. Is I'm watching it going. To me, this seems like an episode that really leans into these are the character traits of these individuals of the show, and so we're just going to play into these archetypes ideas and not really give substance. But I don't know if Brooklyn Nine-Nine is really a substance show because I don't watch it, so I'm kind of missing a lot. But anyways, one of my favorite sins was this one, about old people going to an old person's home. And the sin is old people are having more sex than you. My understanding is that nursing homes are basically eating Jell-O and having orgies, and often they're all out of Jell-O. And my comment is, how the fuck do you know about this person who wrote this sin, Aaron?
And we shall find out in keeping tabs.
Oh, geez. Okay. And also at the time of writing this script, a long time ago, I wrote a sin series. The lead-in was like they're working on their backstory. The Pontiac Bandit and Peralta are working on their cover story for them going undercover together, and they're just playing off of each other back and forth, and it just turns into this big thing where they're talking about one of them having been birthed by basically Zeus as their father, and it's just this elaborate kind of backstory that's entirely unnecessary. And I wrote a sin about that being character development for Dungeons and Dragons. And at the time, it was my favorite Dungeons and Dragons joke. So when I wrote down my notes to prep for BTS, I wrote, this is my favorite D&D joke so far, which is no longer true.
I was gonna say, we've done a million since then.
We've done
in
multiple.
In fact, the other episode this week,
I'm going to say pairing it up against Loki, and it's on a different level now. I love that the comments will pull those things out. So we'll talk about that some more too. But yeah, I kind of got a chance to write a little bit on my thoughts in the moment. But going back and watching it, one of my favorites is the Christmas tree pyro person who just blew their load because they were so excited about lighting up a Christmas tree. Like there's just a little thing that tips over and the tree instantly ignites in this massive fashion. And I just had this idea that the people that were on set that day were absolutely delighted. Today's the day we're going to light some shit on fire, guys. And they're just like it was just insane. So anyway.
I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think I've talked about it before. I love the Doug Judy episodes. I do find these two together to be really fun. They're kind of fun because they're mirrors of each other, right? Like the Craig Robinson character, the Doug Judy character is almost like Peralta's mirror image in the crime world. Like he's goofy, he has fun. He's kind of a man-child, but somehow is also good at his job. Like, they kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways, and so I like their relationship. And I enjoyed this episode. Some sins that I wanted to mention. Denny noticed the football powder, and that was on Scully's desk. And when you pointed that out, I laughed so hard because that's such a great joke. Football powder, like it's foot powder or ball powder. Like it's just, I love that. So I wanted to mention that one.
I think you tweaked that one because I was mostly thinking about it being just ridiculous that you would have powder on your desk at all.
Right.
And then you pointed out the foot and ball part of it. And I was like, oh, that's even funnier than I thought, which is my problem all the time. Accidental brilliance on my part. I get credit for stuff I should not get credit for. I'm just saying.
I loved that one. And then I had another one where it was like the brown toesing. It feels like that should be a thing. And so it's another one of those examples where I'm like, let's make this a thing. If you're not the opposite of a brown noser is a brown toeser. That just makes a lot of sense to me. Instead of sticking your nose up someone's butt, you're sticking your foot up their butt, which I think is hilarious. So anyhow, wanted to mention that one as well.
We should start that.
Yep, you're such a brown toeser. You're so mean. It's the lasso thing all over again. Jonathan, what about you? What were some of your thoughts?
I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This episode, I mean, I don't know that this. The Doug Judy stuff's always funny. I more than anything though, I like Rosa and Peralta when they're paired up. I just think that's a great combination. The actors play off each other really well.
Is Rose the serious one?
She's
serious?
like the
Okay.
tough one.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, they do pair them up every now and then. I mean, it's not like it's uncommon, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like as the show got older, like as the show went on, it became more like Rosa and Amy, you know, it'd be something like that. So they kind of got away, but Rosa and Peralta are like, you know, I don't know, they just play off, those two actors play off well of each other, and it's just, they're two fun characters to see in action together. But yeah, no, I love the show. And this was a good episode. As far as the sins, Danae mentioned a little bit about the tree lighting on fire. I really enjoyed all about that sin. Like, somebody in the special effects department hit a blowtorch in the branches and, you know, blew the fucking pyro load to excess. I like the whole thing about nursing homes and eating Jell-O and orgies, and they often run out of Jell-O because it was used for the orgies. And then and I just love the announcing your favorite hand while your other hand is right there and can hear you. That's so funny.
It's like playing favorites. Your other hand's right there, man. You can't say that. That's a very parent thing. Like, you know, like you can't tell your kid they're your favorite when the other kid's there in the room. That's not okay.
Isn't there a Jewel song about that, I think?
Is there?
Something about hands.
Could be. All right, let's move on to Loki, episode 3, season 1. Lamentis is the name of the episode, and this was a Hughes Whittington script.
Whittington!
A nice little Whittinghughes script. So you and Ian writing on this one. Did Ian have anything to say about the episode or the sins?
Yep. And I actually glanced at it this time. So just a quick fuck you to Ian, but we're going to just jump right in. Ian says, Loki. Loki's my favorite of the Marvel TV shows so far, and I loved WandaVision. It took me a little to get past the fact that we join our protagonist minutes after a story where he plays a mass murderer, but I got there eventually. Tom Hiddleston, he writes, is so freaking charismatic, I would watch him read the ingredients from a packet of biscuits and still be thoroughly entertained. The show itself is a great balance of mystery, magical action, quippy dialogue, and oh, so juicy, timey-wimey goodness. I am pumped that we're getting a season 2. In terms of sins, my favorite part of the script was Danae accidentally herself into a crucial plot point. The sin is criticizing Sylvie for not using the whoosh away rods before we even knew they whooshed away their victims. Oh my God, I did that. Yay, go me. I'm the best. Look at me being all smart and amazing and shit. This is what I imagine Denny is saying right now. Partially because I didn't read that part. Partially because I know she's reading this in the moment and not ahead of time. Penis. I did read the penis part. Thank you, Ian, for making me say that. I have to give a shout out to my favorite sin that I wrote on this, and possibly the best thing I have ever written to date, which was being thrown through a train window before your intended stop after drinking too much alcohol or pre-destination station defenestration, whatever. Yeah, post, if you will. You're welcome for botching that, Ian. And Aaron, as always, nailed the delivery. Danae did not. That one took a lot longer to put together than I would care to admit, but I loved it.
It was great.
Yes.
I had that one down.
Which
as well.
one was it? Which one did Aaron nail? Because I couldn't understand what Danae was saying. I'm sorry.
The predestination station defenestration post intoxication.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah,
you
you
will.
did.
If you will.
You did definitely nail that. I would have been able to do that either, Danae.
Yeah.
The key with those
that one, I think I put too many
it's
letters
such a
in
great
that one.
word, and as a word nerd, it's one of my favorite words because you would not think there was a word for throwing someone through a window, but there is
is it defenestration?
yes, that literally means
That's
throwing
what that
someone.
means?
Yes, like
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, so it's this beautiful word that not enough people use. So
I want to say defenestration,
Well, yeah,
but it's
'cause you shouldn't-
defenestration. I'm
You
sorry.
should throw
I'm sorry.
somebody through a window. That's why people don't use that. Now I wish that Eddie Murphy said that word in Beverly Hills Cop, but
yeah,
So according to Google, the formal or humorous is the action of throwing someone out of a window.
mm-hmm.
The informal definition is the action of dismissing someone from a position of power or authority.
There you go. But yeah,
And now you know.
defenestration, such a great word. And sometimes
Yeah.
people just deserve to be defenestrated. You know what I mean?
Here's the best part of that. I was the lead on this one, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I just put it in the script without checking it off. I didn't look it up. I was just like, that's over my head, and I don't care. But it was great.
For me, the thing is, the narrator that I try to do with those kind of things is not just to read the words, but actually know what they mean and say the sentence like you know what you're saying. Like, that's the trick, right? It's not just to do the tongue twister, but to do in a way that actually makes sense with the words that you're given. So yeah, it's a fun little, I love those little challenges, those little tasks. They're fun.
Yeah, that was super, super fun.
What about you, Denny?
This was the episode where I thought, okay, I'm starting to potentially have a little bit of fun here because we're learning more about who this mystery, second Loki is. But it just seemed like not a lot happened, which happens in multiple episodes of Loki. And then the last 10 minutes of this one just murdered me. Like, there was so much that didn't happening in the last 10 minutes of that action sequence. And so it may be one of my least favorite episodes of the series, even though I think it's really beautiful to look at. When I'm going back and I'm just watching the Sins video and just the universe that they're building, getting to kind of go to these different places using the temp pad and portals and such, and visiting apocalyptic worlds. That's a really interesting thing. And to see a giant, planet and moon about to crash into each other is really interesting also. And I say this, I feel this way truly in this moment. This might be one of my favorite scripts that I've ever put together, because I was having fun and I felt like I was in the zone. I really enjoyed the sins that I kind of threw out. And I really enjoyed what Ian did as well. I was really glad that he pointed out, when Sylvie says, no one makes it out of here, as if she was surprised, Ian points out, well, isn't that the whole point of this? So he was really able to kind of dig into some of the plot points while also just bringing it up and having a lot of fun. Like where are you going to find 1.21 gigawatts at this hour? Like, that's a reference I would have never thought of, but it works really, really well here. So we also got to zing the narrator on this one. Like, there's so many different kind of things we got to sort of do with the script that made sense for this episode. So it was like almost a perfect petri dish for a Sins video, because we really got to just run the gamut of Sins, including bringing in some Dungeons and Dragons Sins, talking about disguise spells and feats and things like this, that if you go and look at the comments, there's just a whole bunch of D&D nerds finding each other in our TV Sins comments. And I love that we have had a chance to sort of open that up a little bit, because we're trying to craft those Sins like maybe the narrator could be a D&D nerd, maybe he doesn't know what's going on. It's not incredibly specific. It could be an accident in a way, but it's getting more obvious as time goes on. I think that's just kind of happens as we've been able to just test the waters with doing some D&D stuff.
I think I think I shadowed on this one,
yes,
because I remember reading this and throwing out, are we maybe going a little too much with the D&D stuff? And then both of you were like, no. And I was like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. If there's one thing that the CinemaSins staff needs to know, is if Ian and Denny are on a script together, there will be a Dungeons and Dragons reference, and we will fight for it.
Yeah.
Because we're both massive D&D nerds. So yeah.
Well, I think what you told me, I think the way you sold it to me was, especially with a show like this, it makes so much sense. And so, yeah, that there needs to be, a bunch. And you're right.
There's going to be a reference to it somehow. Like, it is a sinful moment. Like, for example, when Loki impersonates this guy that he just happened to see in a picture, that is interesting, right? Like, you look like someone, but how did he emulate the voice? How did he know what that person sounded like without ever having heard his voice? That is questionable at best. So there is an actual spell in Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a feat that you can take to mimic someone's voice perfectly. So there's a perfect reference that we can pull from that explains why this moment is sinful, using Dungeons and Dragons as the base. Yeah. So, and it was perfect for that. I mentioned a lot of sins, but I really loved all of the urgency sins that were kind of mentioned, and we sprinkled them throughout from different perspectives. But one of the, I loved hearing Aaron sing. That was what a perfect lead in, for, singing in the rain / strolling on the moon. The quip at the end of, did the whole of Canada just move to this moon? I thought was brilliant. And then, Loki would be Sylvie at TV Sins was just brilliant. So
yeah, I had that one down. I love that one.
Super, super good shit.
Jonathan, why don't you continue with your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what Danae was touching on too about this one felt like nothing happened. I think one thing about this series that irritated me was it's only 6 episodes, so it's not like it's horribly long, but this show could have been like 3 or 4 episodes. Like this episode could have been like 20 minutes of an episode, you know, and then maybe show some TVA stuff and go from there. As far as this episode goes, though, I mean, I didn't like it, but Sophia DiMartino is easily my favorite thing about this show. The one of the few bright spots for me. So this is our first episode. We really get to see her as Sylvie.
Yeah.
And so I liked a lot of that. I mean, I liked watching her. So, you know, that was so if I'm going to spend this with a positive, that would be a positive for me. As far as the sins, Danae mentioned a few of them. I love and I feel like I'm trying to remember what show that was. Oh, it was Mandalorian, where we did a lot of helmet sins because so I know that wasn't the intention here, but I just I'm discovering the way they use helmets in TV shows and movies is just fascinating.
So
to me.
weird.
It is weird.
Why would you punch a helmet?
I know. And then so here you have she punches a helmet, he punches a helmet, and really, what are helmets for anymore? I also enjoyed you pointing out this futuristic grocery store has security cameras that track plot-related people through the parking lot. Amazing. Total bullshit, but amazing. And other than that, I had a couple things Danae mentioned, so that was kind of all I had.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Danae. This was one where the dialed back conversational thing that Loki does a lot is prominent, and I started to think I may not actually long-term going to be enjoying this show. And then it brought me back with some conceptual and some plot things. I think the next episode where I was like totally back in, and then by the end I was, you know, loving it. But this episode was a turning point for me in that like it could have gone either way after this, where I was like, but looking back, I like a lot of what they set up in this episode. You could say the crux of the main thematic plot about loving yourself, accepting who you are, happens in their conversation on Lamentis. But it is very wordy and it's very, dialogue heavy. The nice thing about it, though, is it's always gorgeous to look at. And I think you mentioned that as well. This episode may be my favorite visually. There are some visuals on Lamentis that are just absolutely mind-blowing. So anyways, yes, I agree with a lot of what you said as far as this episode goes. And you guys mentioned all the sins that I was going to talk about. There was one. Was this the one? Since you mentioned all the other ones, was this the one that had like the narrator go, "Let's talk about the villain's plan," and then somebody interrupts and says the plan? Yeah, that was really clever and fun too. I like it when we can kind of turn those on their heads. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it was like, shut up, Sylvie, I'm talking.
Yeah. But if you interrupt me one more time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to music video sins. Silk Sonic Skate. There's a lot of alliteration there. A lot of alliteration.
So is this I didn't really look into it. Is this a band that Bruno Mars is a part of?
Correct.
Because it didn't say featuring Bruno Mars,
no,
right?
They made a band together. I think there was a sin about this confusion. Silk Sonic is Bruno Mars in Anderson .Paak's band. I believe is my understanding. So yes, and the song is called Skate. What did Barrett have to say about this one?
Barrett said, Bruno Mars is a talented artist. Anderson Paak, what was it?
Paak, I think.
Paak is a pretty brilliant artist. And they got together with a band, I think it's Bruno's, and just jammed out some 70s style R&B tunes. From what I've heard, they're excellent. They're also extremely derivative of, 70s style R&B tunes. Nothing wrong with that, but it's like listening to a really good Dave Matthews cover Dave Matthews Band. I can enjoy it, but I kind of want to hear the real thing. The video is reminiscent of Santana / Rob Thomas's Smooth from 1999, and I honestly don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. Yeah.
Smooth is amazing, real quick.
Yeah.
Throw that out there.
Yeah, that's a good tune. I'll go next. I love this song, by the way, just on a sonic level. Like listening to this song is really fun. Anything that Bruno Mars is involved in, when I listen to it musically, I'm just like, this is kind of my jam. Like I love his sense of rhythm, his sense of funk and soul, and like I dig the Bruno Mars vibe. Lyrically and message wise, it's really weird for me because I totally get it. But it is just as the video is sin for. It is a lot about objectification, right? Like this idea of you're so beautiful, you're so hot, I find you so attractive, let's get together kind of thing. And
let me trap you in a tower forever.
I did want to mention that one. But I look at that and I go, look, that is, first of all, natural. That's human. Finding someone attractive is not wrong. It's not wrong to look at someone and go, oh, they're hot, or oh, they're attractive. So where do you draw, like, figuring out as a human where you draw the line between how you communicate that to someone and what that means to them, right? Because the problem with objectification is, if you communicate to that someone, especially a stranger who you don't know, you are communicating to them, you are an object of desire for me. You are not a human being with a full capacity of qualities and characteristics.
Your flesh, I wanna.
So and that's where objectification comes from, is treating someone like an object, and that's what's going on here.
Was that a line in the song, by the way?
Yeah.
No. Was it? No, I didn't think it was. I thought that was just.
I was like, wow.
See, here's what Denny does. Denny
That's
goes
forward.
Denny goes, I hear what Aaron's saying on a philosophical level. Now I'm going to put it on a street level.
Let me just break this down.
Let me break this
Your
down. What he's
flesh, I want to fuck.
That's right.
That's
Crude
pretty
style.
straightforward.
Yeah.
It's a very crude interpretation.
Even me, who cannot read signs or signals at all, I would get that. I'd be like, okay, gotcha. I'm on the same page.
So that is an interesting conversation for me to have, is about objectification, what that means, how we avoid treating each other like objects and instead treat each other like full human beings, while at the same time embracing what desire is, what sexuality is, like all those kind of things.
Or what appreciation is. I mean, you can appreciate beauty.
At the very least, ask her how she feels when she skates.
Right. Yeah.
Is she having a good? It looks like she's having a great time. Compliment her skills as a skater. Those skaters in that video were so cool. There's a couple of Instagrammers I follow. I'm not going to pull it up, but there's a couple of Instagrammers that I follow, and they just skate. It's so cool.
Yeah. I just think we are driven by such instincts, whatever you want to call them, that I think it does us well to put a rein on those and to be able to not have the first thing we say about an actor, man, they're beautiful, right? Like, to talk about some other things first. And then if you want to appreciate their beauty on a physical level, I think that's fine. But I think it's just a matter of like limiting the way we prioritize attractiveness. And honestly, you can see it more accepted right now the other direction, from women to men. Like, objectification of men is more accepted in pop culture right now, and I think that's because there's a power imbalance at play, and I think that actually makes sense to me. I understand it. Like, it's not something where I'm like, oh, that should, if you can't do that, you can't do that. Like, it makes sense to me that there is a power correction going on with the objectification of men. But at the same time, on a personal one-on-one level, I think we all should be interested and careful about how we approach each other on that. But so when I read the lyrics to this song and I listen to the message and I watch the video, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not jiving with this kind of attitude about the idea of someone's attractiveness or desirability.
It's kind of like if you go to a restaurant and it looks really great and the music is really, really good, but the food sucks. It's like the substance of what you're putting out in front of me that I'm supposed to consume doesn't taste good, but the environment looks good, because the video is cool to look at, and the sound of the music is fun, and you're kind of bobbing, and they're talented. But if the message is trash or whatever, or if it's just not appealing to you or doesn't taste right, you're not going to go back to the restaurant, no matter how great it looks.
And
yeah, I just didn't like the song. I didn't really think much more about it beyond that. I didn't like the song and I moved on.
Some of the sins, actually, I don't know if I have more than one. I have the tower one that you mentioned, because I thought that was hilarious, and I love that it ended with "writing lyrics must be hard."
I know that whole run was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, it was using medieval punishment as a pickup line, right into writing lyrics must be hard, and then followed up by these ladies are remaining so cool about being objectified. I hope they made bank off of this video appearance. I thought he did a good job of like poking fun at the objectification.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, I mean, going off what you guys said, I did write down his zero reason we needed a close up on this woman's crotch. I thought that was a good sin. And then Bruno is so obviously horny now that he might as well be banging his conga drum with his dick. I thought that was, that was a Barrett sin.
Well said.
Yep.
Danae?
I've already mentioned mine.
All right, let's move into CinemaSins. We have got Tom and Jerry up first.
What the fuck is this movie?
Have you seen it?
What is
No.
this movie?
Okay.
No, that's why I'm asking you a question. I know you have.
No.
What
I have
the
seen
hell
it.
is this?
I have seen it. I don't know that I can answer your question in any kind of satisfactorily.
Well, real quick, so
satisfactorily?
So do they just have all the animals are animated? Like every animal, they don't have like live action animals in this universe?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, they're animating all the animals as a way
so
to
are they
justify.
seeing them as animated? Is it like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit scenario, or they don't point it out?
Listen, they have to be, right? Because they're seeing the things they do as animated creatures, so I would think they would have to be seeing them as animated. I think they're seeing what we're seeing, but I don't know. I don't know how.
I felt like I had when I was watching this, I felt like I just had a stroke or something and was like smelling the color purple.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I had no idea what was going on. That's
was
a really weird way to put that, but I don't know what to say.
This was a Chris and Daniel script. I'd love to hear.
It's a funny video, though.
It's a very funny video. I would love to hear what Chris and Daniel have to say about this.
Krista wasn't able to write in this week, but Daniel says, general thoughts on Tom and Jerry are there are two different games of cat and mouse, quote unquote, at work in this film. The first being Tom and Jerry, and the second being Terrence and Kayla. While the setup is pretty sound, it never paid off in a satisfying way for me. A lot seems to happen on screen, but the story and the characters feel motionless. We are expected to care about these characters, but never presented with good reason to do so. Everyone is trying to make it in New York, and they all have a little concern for morals and ethics or human decency, and Tom and Jerry have little concern for laws. Their plans to screw each other over don't work out, so they decide to work together instead, not because it makes sense, but because it's a kids' movie. The lesson learned ultimately feels contrived. Additionally, the combination of real world and cartoon consequences made it difficult to suspend disbelief because other aspects of the whole real world / cartoon world interaction didn't seem to follow the same logic. For example, Kayla loses her job because two cartoon characters run into her in this world. How is that kind of stuff not expected? Seems like patience would be required not to lose your mind in this world. Regarding the wedding subplot, Preeta and Ben made little to no effort to save their own relationship. I give that marriage 1 to 2 years tops. Lastly, I do feel that the blending of live action and animation was pretty good. There is one scene where Tom is out in the rain, and I felt the way his 2D body interacted with the 3D rain was executed well. For on writing, this one was fun. As I was trying to write a sin for the moment in the film, I was like, I'm overthinking this. Then it was just a matter of seeing how far I could go with overthinking it, taking it to a place where the narrator was not only annoyed, but seemingly inconsequential, 3-point landing, but he was really deeply hurt. So that was the 3-point landing one.
I love that. I wondered if that was Daniel, because he did something similar on a TV Sins script where he had the narrator get all introspective about something. I love it. There's a real style thing. He has a poetic style that he goes into that is that I really like. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it is. It's fun because we all have our own voice and our own kind of writing style, and to have new writers kind of beginning to sprinkle in, and this philosophical sort of pause. Mm-hmm. It was really unexpected, and it was a fun moment too, because the 3-point landing thing is just, it's used a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's used a lot. So
is this really even much of a Tom and Jerry movie? Because it doesn't feel like it from the video, and I don't even really know how you make a Tom and Jerry movie. I feel like that's probably something that works better as a 5-minute short or whatever.
That's the whole point.
It'd be like making a Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote movie.
Mm-hmm.
More on kind of Daniel in writing, he also adds, I secretly love writing coffee-related sins, which he does in an episode coming up. So I love learning this because he actually writes a coffee sin. He says, this past year, I became interested in all of the different ways people brew coffee, French press, mocha pot, percolator, drip, etc. It turns out this is a really personal thing for a lot of people. I read this article about making espresso and theories regarding the fines migration. It's believed that fine coffee particles move during the brewing process, ultimately affecting flavor. And when I saw the coffee maker in the Rube Goldberg machine, I couldn't resist the opportunity. Ended with a, I don't care, because that's what the narrator would say, and it's funnier. But the truth is, I do care, and I don't know why. He says his favorite sin in closing was written by Chris. The movie was building tension from nothing, and I loved how it begins with sarcastic continuation of the movie's own nonsense logic. The sin is, because when an angry bride crosses a bridge, you can't change her mind. I love this one so much. Even so, she couldn't even get back in Manhattan if she wanted to. Seriously, they make it sound like once she makes it to the bridge, she'll instantly be on a plane. There's like 30 more minutes of traffic before they hit JFK, and then there's the usual airport nonsense. What the fuck does a bridge have to do with anything?
That's great.
And that was the sin that he said was his favorite.
That's awesome. Danae, why don't you kind of continue with your thoughts on, or should I go first since I've seen it? Maybe I should go first since I'm the one that's seen it. The movie is just as weird and dumb as it looks in this video. It's just so strange that there's nothing to really grab onto, and it is a movie that I think is designed only to appeal to children. Like, I think that's the only audience that would just, laugh at the slapstick, and it's not worried about any kind of consistency or anything like that. So it's not a great movie. It's definitely not a great movie. Some of the sins I like, you can't press your butt cheeks against the copier and do this pose. I thought was very hilarious. Enjoyed that one. Let's see. Some of these, I think this is the one, the 3-point landing one. Some of these are so long, and for my preparation, I copy the whole sin. And I'm just like, I don't think I want to read this whole thing again, but it is so good. And anyways, it ends with, what is left, you say, the faint memory of sweetness and a sin which cannot be forgiven. I just love that very, very much. I also love the one where the narrator just keeps like trying to distract the audience, and it ends with, this point in space and time having this completely fictional interaction. You might say, you're trying to distract us from the point. And to that, I'd say you are correct. That one. Moving on. Lots of fun stuff here. And then I had to mention like the almost like satanic voice when he goes into, yes, movie, teach the children to lie. Tell them there will be no consequences. So great. So good. Yeah. What about you, Jonathan?
Like I said, I haven't seen it. My daughter had no interest in it, so I didn't have any interest in watching it on my own. So I did not take a glance at it when it was on HBO Max earlier this year. I loved the video though. One of my sins, I don't even know that I completely got it, but I just loved the wording of a Rube Goldberg machine without an OK Go song. It's just a rejected MC Escher painting at the bottom of the rhyme.
So great.
And in the movie, the line is, I'll make sure you never work in New York City again. And then the sin is, because as an event manager in a hotel, I own this city. And I just like that they said that people thinking a dancing mouse is more impressive than a piano playing cat when Jerry comes in and like steals the spotlight from Tom. It's like,
so
no, the
weird.
cat playing the piano would be way more interesting.
I know, it's so weird. the logic leaps this movie makes. It's like, can someone act like a human experiencing this stuff? I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. Danae, what about you?
You guys covered them all.
All right, let's move into the X-Files Fight the Future. This was the first X-Files movie. Barrett and Jonathan writing on this one. So what does Barrett have to say?
Barrett didn't have a ton to say on X-Files. He just said, I loved the X-Files with all my heart in the 90s, so I loved the movie when it came out. Then I hated it. Then I watched it again for Sin's purposes and kind of loved it again. It's hard to look at David Duchovny as Fox Mulder very seriously these days after seeing him in Californication and all that, but it still brought back good memories, and the cast is pretty fucking good. No, he said freaking. And the cast is pretty freaking good. Lando is always great. I forgot about Terry O'Quinn, and the guy that plays the Texas cop /fireman/minion is excellent.
Nice. Jonathan, what about you? What are some of your thoughts on the movie and some of your favorite sins?
I was a huge X-Files fan too, which I think Aaron was as well, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So this came out right after season 5. And the first 5 seasons of this show are pretty glorious. After that, it's a little rocky. I think season 6 is still pretty strong, but after that, I think it gets a little less interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I did watch it till the bitter end because at that point I was a completist.
Me too.
I remember liking this movie fine when it came out. I mean, it was one of those things I was so hyped about. I don't think it quite lived up to that, but it's an interesting movie because I don't know how, even though I went back and read Roger Ebert's review of it for some reason, and he made a comment in there about if you didn't watch the show, you'd still be fine. I don't know. I don't know. I can't have that perspective because I had watched the show, but like, I don't know how you would understand anything that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting kind of movie like to make. This is literally like just a continuation. It literally takes place after season 5 ends, and then season 6
picks
starts.
up at the end.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's really good. I think it's like it feels like a fun X-Files thing. I think for at least the first hour or so, that bee bugs the hell out of me. It did then, and it really did now. Like when you start like looking into like when you're sending it and like, how did that bee stay on her this whole time? And like that ends up being such a major plot point. I don't know why. I don't know. That feels weird. Like I don't know why they did it that way. Just the whole thing, and I don't know. Anyways, but overall, it's pretty fun. There's a lot of fun stuff in it. I think the comic relief stuff is a little bad at times. I think trying to force in the relationship was a little weird. But overall, I find it enjoyable. As far as sins, I liked the one early on where they're showing the cavemen, and it's like, this is honestly the weirdest Geico commercial I've ever seen.
Yep.
And then I loved Barrett wrote this one about, I have a feeling it might be this easy to get into a restricted government area. And pardon me while I down this shot of Evan Williams before I start thinking about that too much. And then I've already mentioned the bee. Just everything we did with that stupid bee plot line, I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah. So Nate, why don't you go next?
I can't. I wrote all of my X-Files notes of the things that I enjoyed from the Sins video, and then my computer crashed. So I lost all my show prep for actually Tom and Jerry and X-Files, though as you guys were talking about your ones for Tom and Jerry, I was like, yeah, that was the one that I wrote down too. So I don't recall what I enjoyed from the video off the top of my head, but I will say I did not watch X-Files because it looked scary. And so
It could be.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I was raised to have a certain sensitivity for scary things. And so I avoid them. Even still to this day, I'm like, I just don't want to experience fear. And it was more of an edgy style show. Fast forward in time. Actually, I don't even remember how old I was when X-Files, I wouldn't have been able to even watch that, I don't think. But there's another show that came out. Was it Fringe?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in the last decade. Yeah.
Right. So when Fringe came out, I started watching that. And I remember the conversations I was having with people about that show seemed to kind of circle around it having an X-Files vibe to it.
Yeah, it was dissed quite a bit for being an X-Files ripoff, which I always thought wasn't fair because it really was its own thing.
No, it was its own thing, but I totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand being a fan of both I was. So
Supernatural is more of an X-Files ripoff than Fringe is. Neither one of them deserve that to be a huge negative thing, but I
guess if CW made the X-Files,
right,
it could be Supernatural. Obviously they're not federal or anything, they're not cops, but but yeah, no, absolutely. I did think it was interesting too. Barrett wrote this in about, they're not just going to go back to Monster of the Week episodes, are they? I don't know. I didn't ask him if that was actually a feeling he had, because honestly, especially in the later years, the Monster of the Week stuff was a lot more the mythology is what I started losing interest in. Yeah. I even wrote that sin about eventually they say aliens wrote part of the Bible. That actually happens.
It does.
It's insane.
I do think after watching Fringe, I think I probably could go back and watch X-Files and it would be oh, this isn't that big of a deal. But there's this tension build to the mystery and things like this that I might have enjoyed on X-Files, but I definitely missed the X-Files train. So I don't really have a ton to add, except for that there was somebody that I went to school with who had red hair and she was called Scully all the time. I remember
Nice.
that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
The only,
I mean-
that's the only other. Oh, and everyone who liked X-Files had a crush on her after watching
I mean,
X-Files.
how could you not?
So,
I mean,
so it's kind of like she got the spillover of the fan base of X-Files. She was like the center of attention because she had
So-
like short cropped red hair.
Gillian Anderson is one of my favorite actors, and
She's so good.
And I mean, and her on this show, Duchovny is excellent. Like I'm not knocking Duchovny at all, but he eventually leaves, and she's carrying the show. It's not her fault that it stopped working either, but I think she's definitely like the best thing that came out of that series was her, because we've gotten a lot of her in other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Gillian Anderson, huge crush for me. It's interesting. We were just talking about objectification and the idea of, attraction. She is a beautiful woman, but honestly, the reason I had such a crush on her was her intelligence, like the way it was just, there's something about that character. I don't know Gillian Anderson personally, right? But the Scully character and then other characters she has played, I just always find them so intriguing and so, interesting in that way. So yeah, that was definitely a thing for me. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say she's really good at acting with her eyes.
Mm-hmm, yes. Yes.
There's just always something, like there's something going on. You just want to know what it is.
So to say I was an X-Files fan is a huge understatement. It is probably probably that and Lost are the two things you could most say. I mean, Pixar obviously, but that's not like. That's more of a company than a thing, but I am most like fandom guy about. We had an X-Files guest room in our first home where my wife actually sewed an X-Files bed sheet for the bed. Like the big white X was on the center of the bed
nice
sheet,
of her.
And I mean, she loved the show too. It was one of our favorites to watch together, and I had a whole bunch of paraphernalia in there and posters and. Like I was a huge fan of the show. I had every episode of this show from every season on VHS labeled and, straight recorded from TV. Yes.
Oh, I had that. I had that with the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
So
and Voyager. I get it.
This is my nerd yell show. Like I am definitely that guy. And it was so interesting because X-Files fell at this transition of television between understanding TV as a lower tier storytelling experience that was serial in nature to becoming more of a
like a viable.
I'm sorry, that wasn't serial in nature, I should say, to becoming more of like mystery, serialized storytelling. Like a lot of the success of Lost is owed to the X-Files, the idea of having like a week-to-week mystery. Yeah. Now, listen, I'm not saying there weren't shows like this before X-Files. There certainly were. But most even dramas before X-Files were case of the week, thing of the week, reset everything for the next week's story.
It was rare. Like, I mean, you could look at stuff like Hill Street Blues was definitely serialized, St. Elsewhere, but that almost fell more under a soap type. I mean, Hill Street Blues is not a soap opera. But I'm just saying it took more of that kind of structure, whereas X-Files did feel a little different. There were a couple of small like genre shows, like sci-fi and horror shows, like Friday the 13th, the series was serialized. But like as far as popular mainstream success, X-Files was definitely like right there at the beginning of all that.
I could talk about this show forever, so I'm gonna try to cut myself short. But I only mention that because it struggled in a lot of ways because it didn't know which show it wanted to be. You talk about the Monster of the Week versus the mythology episodes. I also was more of a Monster of the Week person. I think I enjoyed more X-Files as a old school TV show that just brought me a different, Monster of the Week for my, favorite FBI couple to explore. Like that's what I loved about it. I loved their chemistry. I loved them figuring out new weird stuff.
And those are the episodes I think that have lasted, right? Those are the ones that people talk about more. They don't talk about the specific mythology episodes. It's like Jose Chung's from Outer Space or,
War of the
Home.
War of the Coffrinages or whatever, cockroaches.
That's a great episode.
So anyhow, it was interesting. This movie, I say all that to say this movie kind of bridged the gap between here's the story, the mythos we wanted to tell, and now we're kind of treading water. Like it was like you said, season 6 was okay, but you could tell it was like, we're just on television now because they need to make money off of our show. And so the mythology stuff is just treading water. So
not that there weren't talented people working on it in later seasons, but I do think Chris Carter, what he got lucky with or was smart about was that the people that he started off with, because I honestly, I mean, Chris Carter created the show. So I'm not going to I mean, there is something there, but I don't know. I find that later seasons where I feel like he took more charge of it and he didn't have like Glenn Morgan and James Wong there. And like these people went off and did other things.
Vince Gilligan.
Yeah. And then it did become a little less for whatever reason, and I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there, but yeah.
So this movie is a really weird kind of thing where it's like a long episode of the TV show, basically between 2 seasons. And I just remember watching it and enjoying it because I love X-Files so much, but also at the time I was like, okay, this is what they should do now. Cancel the show, release a movie every couple years. Like, this is how you continue this story. And I think they kind of wanted to do that after season 5. And it just, they just couldn't pull it off. And so...
Well, it was a huge hit at that point. Because, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the first, 3 seasons, it wasn't even much of a hit. Fox just kind of... I don't know why Fox kept airing it, which is kind of funny now to think about that it wasn't a hit, because when you look back, it was averaging 16, 17 million viewers on a Friday night. But back then, that was not a hit. Now that would be the biggest show on network television. The
live chat.
How things have changed.
The live chat is just taunting me to keep talking about the X-Files because they keep asking questions, and I'm just like, I want to tell you about if I was shipping Mulder and Scully, but we have other things that
today's gonna be like, oh, my power went out again.
No. You guys keep talking. I'm just gonna get some work done.
The short answer is no, absolutely not. I did not want Mulder and Scully together. The whole romantic part of their relationship was the worst part of their relationship, in my opinion.
And it showed. And there was a lot of bad things about that second movie, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah. All right. So as far as sins go, I loved a lot of this stuff. Donning a blazer while the sleeves of your dress shirt are rolled up. I just felt that on a really, real deep level. You just don't do that. It's just uncomfortable and terrible. The way it brings up the 2 main issues with the continuation of the X-Files. The fact that if they hated what these people were discovering, why didn't they just eliminate them? They had the power in many different ways to shut them down or kill them, and they just never do. And then the other thing is Scully continuing to not believe things that she has seen with her own eyes. There's just the show needs them to be believer and skeptic, but at some point, because this stuff is being shown to us as real, Scully has to either accept it or she is the one that's being illogical, right? She's supposed to be our grounding, and if she's seeing this stuff, it just becomes a little weird.
That was the one problem with her character.
Yeah.
The one big problem with her character, the way it was written.
Yep. And then I had to mention conspiracy boobs. Conspiracy boobs is a great sin. Also, the Scully Mulder polo sin made me laugh quite a bit. And then that is not where you give injection. This is never
getting randomly a lot of boob sins, right? Because we had the one in Tron too. It's objects that look like boobs. That's becoming a
boobs.
Yeah, we see them everywhere.
I
remember I tried to get. I didn't remember what that was. I tried to get one in, and Danae's like, I don't think that looks like boobs. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And I don't know that it's aired yet, so we'll come across it. I don't know because I don't remember what it was.
It was the solar systems. Maybe I thought maybe it was it might be the opening of a Loki.
Could
be.
It
was one where there were 2 solar systems and it was kind of zooming out and zooming in and kind of showing us the multiverse aspect, but it may actually be towards the end of the series.
Yeah, could be.
Where there's more of that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That is X-Files. Fight the future. Let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to talk about something else from putting together the week's content. Since I already hinted at mine, I will say, I had heard in my past from a friend who worked a job at a nursing home that the our aged folks have a lot of sexual intercourse with each other when they're in their older years.
I mean,
so
I guess
I did some research, and
I've heard that somewhere too. I've heard that like STDs are like so prevalent.
STDs, the things that nursing homes have to stock that you wouldn't think of because they're sexually related is a really interesting thing. And this is not any kind of elder shaming, sex shaming, any kind of thing. It's just
hell no. Have fun.
Yeah, and well, honestly, if you think about it logically, it makes sense. You're at a time in your life where some of the consequences aren't as, like, you're not getting pregnant. Like you don't have to worry about that, and so you're towards the end of your life anyway. Like the whole have fun while you're still around kind of thing. Like it kind of makes sense. So I did some research, and yeah, there are plenty of stories of nursing home attendees who are like, yes, this is, at least 60% of our population is just bed swapping, with each other on a weekly basis. And it's just a big orgy in there. Not an orgy technically, because it's not like they're all together. Turn. But those are the stories, is basically like,
it also sounds really friendly, right? Like they're all just into it and they're just like, I'm going to go see Ted this week.
What am I going to do with this body anymore? It's done all the things it's going to do.
That's right.
Might as well.
Is it a playground?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to get gonorrhea though. Like that doesn't sound pleasant, but I mean, I guess they treat you immediately.
But also, I'm at the end of my life, so might as well, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe not.
We're in care. They'll get to it. Let's just do all the things I decided not to do.
I just hope my daughter puts me in a nice nursing home. If that ends up being a thing that has to happen.
I don't think it's like that, Jonathan. I don't think anybody's going to force you into their sex cult. I don't think that's what's going on at nursing homes. I think it's more of just, the opportunity.
I'll be like, hey, Kenzie, I hear that there's a lot of sex, so can you make sure it's the more attractive people or at this one I'm going to?
Yes.
That's obviously a joke.
Well, there you go. That's my keeping tabs.
My gosh.
Danae, what is yours?
I didn't have anything this week.
Jonathan, what about you?
Oh, I did some research with X-Files. I did try to look up I tried to do some research on bees, and I really couldn't find anything other than, that's bullshit. That would never happen. So nothing really came of that. That was interesting. One thing I did remember, I didn't really end up writing a sin about this. One thing I did remember was that the Oklahoma City bombing was just a couple years prior to this movie being released. And there, the kind of what kicks off everything, the inciting incident, is the bombing of a federal building. I remember at the time, there was some talk about that was a little weird. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing some research on it, and I found out Carter really leaned into what were current conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. Like he got this information, and it's interesting too now because with a 2021 viewpoint on how prevalent conspiracy theories are in our lives, like how we have a whole section of people that are not doing things because of what most people would consider conspiracies. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know. It's just interesting to look back on that and see how he really did just lean into that stuff just so he would have, for storytelling purposes, not because he necessarily believed it.
Right.
But with the Oklahoma City bombing, it was interesting because, it opens up with a bombing of a federal building. It was in Dallas. It's not in Oklahoma. He wouldn't do that. But Timothy McVeigh, the guy responsible for the Oklahoma City bombing, he was a conspiracy theorist. And Kurzweil, which is the character that plays by Martin Landau, R.I.P. Martin Landau. At one point, he mentioned something about, he says, a silent weapon for a quiet war, which apparently was a parallel to things that McVeigh ranted about. There's also the idea of FEMA. That's a big central plot point in this, that FEMA has a really strong foothold, and that they can do things like suspend the Constitution. And that was something that McVeigh ranted about, and a lot of people that had conspiracies like him. And then also the black helicopters. Yeah. That was a big, at that time especially, that was a huge conspiracy thing, was that, black helicopters meant that, something was going down. So I don't know. It was just interesting. I didn't really do anything with it, but it was just interesting to read up on all that. I don't know. It's interesting to me that they did do the federal bombing and it really doesn't serve much of it. That's another thing about the movie. And we send this, the idea that that's how they cover up those bodies from Texas, is they put them in this building and blow it up. Just even for the X-Files, that seemed really far-fetched, and also that's what brings Mulder into it. Like, you know, like I don't even think Mulder gets a whiff of this if it's not for that. So it's I don't know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's some weird choices were made in this movie.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move into the comments section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're each going to pull some feedback from you from different places around the internet. Could be the comments of the YouTube video, could be from Discord, or
possibly Apple reviews.
With that in mind,
which
today,
we haven't done for a while.
So wait, we're going to read people's reviews on eating apples? That's interesting. I don't know what that has to do with us, but
what does eating an apple have to do with anything? Come on.
10 out of 10.
It just makes you an asshole.
That's what I was saying. All right, Denny, what do you got?
Oh, sorry. I guess
there's even an Apple sin in one of the videos this week, wasn't there? About
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, and the Tom and Jerry that. No. I was thinking.
Yeah, Tom's eating an apple.
Yes, it is in there. I was thinking there was one about actual Apple company having a bite of an apple.
Oh, yes. That was in Loki.
In Loki, yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So, yes, actual Apple reviews.
That was about finding the right doodads to plug in the whatchamacallit, and it was a beautiful sin on Apple.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Danae, why don't you kick us off with some reviews of the podcast?
So we haven't gone to Apple for reviews for a while. These actually do still help. I mean, people find podcasts in so many different places now, so it's potentially doesn't feel as important. But getting onto an Apple playlist is still a really big deal, and reviews are what drives those. So all of the 5-star reviews and stuff is super, super helpful. And then if you leave comments, that's helpful as well, or the actual written reviews, I should say. This one comes from K111920, who says, finally, with 5 stars. I have finally listened to all 77 episodes. This was a while ago. And this has been so fun. I'm trying to binge Sincast, but this was easier. Y'all have been so fun to listen to, and it's so much fun to hear everything behind the videos that makes CinemaSins, TV Sins, Music Video Sins. I've had a hell of a good time listening. This is great content.
Nice.
Wanted to say thanks for that. This one is from John, the Greninja trainer. 5 stars, titled Kids. Yo, if there's ever a movie about my life, I'm currently a busser at a Texas roadhouse, so please add Kids sin for every table with children that I've had to clean or moving booster seats across half of the place. Would my movie deserve that many sins? Honestly, not out of the question. Oh, P.S. I love you guys. And also, until you sin Good Will Hunting, I'm convinced it's perfect. This happens to us all the time, where somebody will comment on something and it's all suggestions. You know, we're still taking your 5-star review though. And we appreciate it, even though it was all just suggestions wrapped inside of it. There are ones from Dowry, 5 stars, comment specifically on episode 81. There's one that we have just seen from Lost Lemon. 5 stars, says perfect compliment to the Sins universe.
Nice.
Starts
I hope
with
I hope they find their lemons.
If you're not listening to BTS, you're only getting half the story, is how that one ends. And the most recent one from this month actually came from Easy Runner 33, who says, so much fun, 5 stars. I love every minute of listening to these humans.
Aww.
And we just appreciate you guys so much for going on to Apple and reviewing our podcast.
Yeah. And if you listen elsewhere, feel free to review there as well. Those help out wherever you listen. So we do appreciate those ratings and reviews. Definitely. Jonathan, what about you? What's your comment section?
Actually, Aaron mentioned the thing about Scully, and I actually did about Scully being a skeptic, and I found the comment actually had to do with that. It was Carrie Thurman comment on the X-Files movie and said, you hit on something that was one of the main problems of the series. Scully saw weird shit week after week after week, and yet she would default back to square one skeptic in the next episode. It's like she didn't become more open-minded until Mulder departed the series, and suddenly she needed to step into the role of the person who initiated investigations that week's weird shit. So
yeah,
that is dead on.
That is exactly right. That is exactly what they tried to do. They tried to transition her into the believer and bring her a skeptic, and it never worked as far as I was concerned. My comment was from the Loki video. Sammy says, quoting the video, "Why is no one bothered by the end of the world?" And then Sammy says, "My brain every day for 2 decades." So, feel you, Sammy. Feel you. All right, let's move into Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wildest dream.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're just going to chat about something else from the pop culture universe. Jonathan, why don't you go first?
So I'm going to talk about a TV show called Slasher. And what's interesting is that its 4th season premiered last night. And a lot of you listening probably haven't even heard of this damn show. And there's a reason for that. This is a show that started years, like, I don't know, 6 years ago. But it was on a TV channel that doesn't even exist anymore called Chiller. And then season 2 and 3 aired on Netflix. And season 3, I think, was a couple years ago. And so season 4 is now on Shudder. So that is where you can watch it. But it is called Slasher. It is an anthology series, kind of in the vein of something like American Horror Story, where there's a different a story each season. It does also, like American Horror Story, it uses a lot of the same actors. It's probably mostly people you haven't heard of. It's definitely, it feels more it's definitely, I don't know. But anyways, in each season, it's basically a slasher film in a season. But it's also, what I like about it is it's a murder mystery, which I'm a huge fan of. And so season 4, the first 2 episodes dropped on Shudder this week. And I did not like the last season very much at all. In fact, I had a hard time really getting through it. But these first 2 episodes, if this is what the rest of the season is going to be like, this is probably going to be the best season of the show yet. So even if you haven't ever seen the show and you have Shudder and you just want to check it out, you could totally start with season 4 because it doesn't matter. But if you can find, if the first and second season are available, I don't know if they're all on Shudder now. I really don't know. They might be some still on Netflix. But I mean, the first couple seasons are worth checking out too. I would personally skip 3, but you do you. But anyways, this season, so this starts off, it's just a really interesting premise. It's these very wealthy this wealthy family, where it's one of those things where the dad has clearly clearly made all the money and the good decisions, and he has a lot, kids that maybe just are waiting to collect that, inheritance, and a second wife that's doing the same, and when they were younger, he would put them through these contests every year where they would do they would have to do these events, and winner takes all, basically, whatever that prize was. And so now that he's about to die, he is making them do another game, and whoever wins gets the entire inheritance. Nobody else will get any part of it. So that's kind of the setup. And then a killer shows up and people start getting offed. I will say, if you are not, and I am not a gore person, so I will say this show does not shy away from that. I will say, unlike American Horror Story, there does seem to be a little more craft involved. It does seem to be more of they're just having fun with effects and all that. So if you are into really creative effects and stuff, I think you will enjoy that aspect of it. That is my least favorite part of it, but I just kind of I know when something's about to happen, so I just kind of look away and then I'll get back into it. Because what I do like is the murder mystery aspect of it. I do like the story and this one seems really interesting, and I'm really curious about where it's going to go. So I thought it was worth mentioning, but that's Slasher season 4. I think it's subtitled Flesh and Blood. But I don't know. It's just fun. It feels very with the setting and everything, it feels very Agatha Christie Nice. If she ever wrote a slasher film, which a lot of slasher films owe a lot of debt to Agatha Christie, because then there were none. Plot line is used in a lot of them. So, but anyways, I don't know. I'm having fun with it, so I thought I'd mention it. And it's like I said, it's only on Shudder currently.
The first 3 seasons are on Netflix. It appears.
Okay, cool.
So, and then the 4th season is on Shudder. If my information is correct. Danae, what about you? What's your Beyond the Sins?
I don't have a lot that I am doing outside of my job and the fun that I'm having on WildRP right now. My whole life has been consumed by video games. So follow me on Twitch at Danae Says. That's it.
I'm going to talk about The Green Knight. I watched this movie 2 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it. It is one of those kind of movies. And I think my review on Letterboxd after I watched it, if you don't know what this is David Lowery, right? Is the director. And it's his take on an old Arthurian tale of Sir. Well, they say Gawain in the movie, but I don't think that's actually how they say it in the book. But it doesn't matter.
They actually say it a couple different ways in the movie, which is Chris and I were talking about that when we did the mini pod.
Oh, interesting. So anyhow, I when I watched this on Letterboxd, I basically just said, I don't know what to think of this yet. Give me some time. And then a week later, I added, still waiting. And so I may have to update again today because I think I'm finally ready to land that this is this is really an incredible piece of art. Does that make it a great movie? That is up to the viewer, I think. But as far as an artistic expression, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and for me, it's meaningful. I think I have landed that what I take away from this movie is about adulting, and that it's a movie about leaving the nest. And there's a lot of thematic stuff about, a parent wanting a child to find their own story, find their own way, those kind of things, and experience things. And
it's also about choices.
It's about
definitely
choices. But I think specifically the choices of the young. Like there's an idea of, how do you make choices when you don't have a lot of life experience? And you're trying to figure things out. I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely incredible. I think the performances are amazing. I love the ending of this movie. It is open-ended in a way that I really, really dig. And I think purposeful for the themes that I'm pulling out of it. Yeah, I'm landing on loving this movie. And I think I could have guessed that that's where I was headed. But honestly, I really did need 2 weeks to reminisce on this film and to figure it out. Now, I didn't need this long with Ghost Story. I loved Ghost Story the first time I saw it, which is another Lowery film. And I think I just locked into those themes a little bit better the first time through. I think this one's a little more confusing, can feel a little more abstract. And I think it also requires information that is not in the film to fully understand it, which is a choice. But again, you don't have to fully understand something to love it. And that, that may be part of what's going on here too. I find movies that make me ponder for this long to be worthwhile just for that reason. And it's even better when I land on, things that I really love about them. So I wanted to mention The Green Knight again. If you're not interested in going to movie theaters, totally get it. This is only.
Oh, I heard about this.
This is only good information for our Sin Club members. I apologize. Hey, another reason to join the Sin Club. But by the time you hear this, if you're not a Sin Club member, it will be in the past. August 18th, which is a Wednesday. So this releases the day after this. They are going to stream this movie for one night only, and then it'll be back only in theaters. So our Sin Club members who are watching live right now can put this on their calendar, and our Sin Club members who get the episode a day early can put this on their calendar.
My guess is it's not going to be much longer though till it's available.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so.
Because it's been out for a month or whatever, a few weeks.
But if you are hearing this on the podcast feed, it's just in theaters currently, but hopefully it'll be streaming soon.
I saw this, the theater, our art house theater, Belcourt, they stopped doing the limited capacity. So when me and my friend Dave went and saw this, it was a sold out screening. I had not been in a sold out screening in I don't know how long at this point, because I tend to go see. I don't even tend to when movies were when this whole pandemic wasn't even happening. I usually went at times purposefully where it wasn't sold out. So it's probably been a couple years for me at least. So that was a little weird, but no, I loved it. And if you want to hear more about what I have to say about it, there's a mini pod in the Sincast feed with me and Chris talking about it. Chris really liked it too. But when you talk about that ending, and we talk about this on the podcast in the spoiler section, I'm definitely not going to say what the line is, but that final line and the way it's delivered is an all-timer in my opinion. Like that's a, that's like a Some Like It Hot or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those. It ends on a perfect note. I will say the one section, even though I love Alicia Vikander, and she plays two roles in this. And I think that's publicly known. I don't think that's given anything away. And then, but there's a scene with her second role, and her and Joel Edgerton, who are both very good at the movie. But I will say that section didn't really, I don't know. I got a little taken out. There's one scene that involves substance on somebody's hand. Mm-hmm. That kind of took me out for a second. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. But other than that, I thought it was, and maybe the next time I watch it, I'll be like, oh, that makes total sense. But I just love the setup.
No, I get it, and I get why it might be, off-putting or those kind of things. But I do.
It wasn't even off-putting. It was just weird.
A lot of this movie is weird, though.
That's true, but
no, yeah. I get it. I totally get what you're saying. I actually think it makes sense with the story he's trying to tell, and
it probably does. And I'll get that next time I watch it. I was just a little confused as to what happened to get us to that point. So that's what took me out of the movie.
Let me tell you how it works, Jonathan.
No. But I'm saying, but I don't know who's doing what to who, or if someone is doing something to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just a little.
Danae's face right now is just the best. Yeah. She's just like.
We'll tell if you want. You're not going to watch this, so we'll tell you about it off air. But I love just the setup of this is so beautiful.
I think it's poop. I'm just going to say it. I think
it's not.
It's not.
It is not.
It's not poop.
Okay.
The setup of this is so beautiful, though. I just love the idea that, the setup of the Green Knight coming in, and he's just like, you can strike me however you want. Mm-hmm. And then, so it's just the choices that are made from that point were just, I don't know. It's fascinating. Yeah. It's a fascinating movie. And I do love Ghost Story probably more, but I do like Dev Patel a lot more than I like Casey Affleck. So
there you go.
I will say Dev Patel in this is just like that dude's amazing.
So that's The Green Knight, which is in theaters currently, Slasher, which is on Netflix, and the new season on Shudder, and shameless self-promotion from Danae, which is on Twitch. That's going to do it for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. If you've got anything you want to send us, you can mail it to P.O. Box 881, Republic, Missouri 65738. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DNESAYS.
And he is at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, a conspiracy boob, and myself, we will see you next week.
Happy National Sandcastle and Sculpture Day.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
So they're really hitting back to school stuff.
Your mom's hitting back to school stuff. It's so hard not to do your mom jokes with you too, because I know you guys aren't really into them, but it's hard. Sometimes I can't resist.
Sometimes your mom can't resist.
There you go.
You guys are recording? Let's talk about car trouble, shall we? Listen, here's the thing with, there's always a next step, and we are in the process of buying a car for our he's buying a car. We're fronting him some of the money. And so we're getting that car all set. And then, one of my boys blew out an engine. And so we're trying to find a replacement vehicle for him. And he's going off to college in 2 weeks. And it's just now we're at the inspection, and now we're at the DMV, and now it's just and now the sunroof won't close, and it's just that was my night last night, was out standing in the rain with my son in his new truck with the sunroof not being able to close while it's pouring rain, and the rain's just coming inside the truck. And it's just
it was such a massive storm too.
It was a huge storm.
It was insane.
What a terrible time. He's just oh, I've got a new truck to play with. He's like, what's the sunroof do? Oh, that's cool. It opens all the way up, and it won't close.
Yeah, when we moved into our house, there is a teeny tiny little gap between the grout of the tile and the tub. And so I know if I don't do something about that gap now, putting some of that clear caulk in it or whatever, that it's going to turn into a big problem later. And
like I just described.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I have purchased it. I just haven't done it because I've never caulked anything before. I'm really trying to pronounce the L. I'm really trying.
I can hear that.
I'm caulking.
It's caulk.
No.
It is. It's caulk.
I want to caulk a tub.
There you go. That's what it is.
That sounds
Wouldn't
so
Justin need to
cheeky.
cock it though? If one of you was going to cock it,
He
that would
does
be
have more
Justin,
cock
right?
experience than I do, technically. Actually, no. In this case, we both are cockless.
No, I'm saying
in our experience.
I'm saying if you're going to cock the tub,
Oh,
As
I
opposed
would
to
think
cock.
cack.
I was joking because
in the cack?
because
Aw.
It's
Justin
an aw sound.
because Justin has a penis, Denny.
Oh, okay. Ooh, thank you.
But it is cool now. I mean, with YouTube and I mean there are positives with YouTube and stuff because I've definitely learned how to do some minor things, just especially when it comes to like outdoor stuff like gardening or not gardening, but keeping up with like shrubs and stuff like that. Like you could just look up some stuff.
You guys have a mine?
A what?
A mine? What are you
I don't know
mining?
what that is.
Oh, you said you looked up on YouTube how to do some minor things. So I didn't know if
Ha. Yes, we have a mine. We have a mine in our backyard. We're producing some coal.
I was looking up pickaxe technique.
I'm going to watch Friday the 13th films. I mean, I'm sure I've done that, but it's not something I think about, like, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with like the movie Groundhog Day on Groundhog Day. It's like if I think about it,
Yeah.
I'll pop it in because I love the movie or whatever, but it's not like necessarily something I make a big deal about.
Yeah. But 13 is my favorite number, and I like spooky stuff, so it's kind of it's just kind of fun. It's just but I have fun with it. I don't take it seriously or anything. I just think it's fun, and I'll usually tweet like a Friday the 13th GIF or something, which I did today. So I just have fun with it. I think it's fun, and people start throwing out their Friday the 13th rankings on Twitter and stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of funny.
And it's one of those days that is, I mean, it's not random technically, but it feels random because it pops up at different months, different times.
There's not going to be another one till May, I think, is the next one.
So
next year, obviously.
So yeah, that's always a fun part of it too. I feel like that we should do more of those kind of holidays. I feel like we should have more holidays that only occur when a certain date, happens on a certain day kind of thing. Like Monday the 3rd or something, it should just be anytime that happens, we all get the day off work. How fun would that be if it were like a random actual day off work holiday kind of thing? That would be interesting. Maybe I'm alone on that. I'm getting no response. Welcome to Behind the Sins. Thank you for joining us. Josh, JCD, Nick, Tom. See you all hanging out in the chat already.
Nannerpuss.
Nannerpuss.
Wow, that was loud.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shouted that right into
My mic.
Sorry, Aaron. Was that a little loud for you? Aaron, did that hurt your ears?
Nannerpuss.
Nannerpuss.
It's a fun word to say, right? It's like it's hard. I didn't know what the hell that was either.
I had a friend that called his grandma Nanner, so it's a little weird.
I meant to do research on it, and then I
feel like nanner is banana, but the puss part really confuses me. We should talk about it probably when we're recording.
Yes, we should
really
keep this in the show.
Really, that's the one I'm most excited to hear your favorite sins from.
Okay, yes. Yes, likewise.
Yes,
I wrote so many down.
I did too.
We are talking about this so much, I may have to just cut this into the show. Just be like...
No, I can do this again. When we get to it, I'll be like, I'm so excited about how many sins
I am too. What is the puss?
Octopus.
What is the puss?
Oh, Josh.
God.
Josh, got it.
Josh,
Okay,
thanks for not just saying you're idiots.
You guys didn't know that?
No clue. Never thought about it
that deeply. I was thinking about it being the undercarriage of the banana.
Yeah. Yes, we thought Denny's.
First of all,
was making vaginal references.
Even if it's not an octopus reference, puss is means face. Like it means face before it means like there's
no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
So that it's like Puss in Boots is face in boots.
Well, that's cat. That in that case it means feline.
Oh, so you're not making any sense. Like, well, in this case it doesn't mean face, but usually it means face.
What are you saying? Words mean different things.
Oh my god. Wow, we are off to a good start. I once went to someone's house.
Good job.
And their dad told me that they were having...
Congrats.
He tells me, my dad is a very straightforward, honest guy. Just, if he has something to say, it's just what he has to say. There's no storytelling. My storytelling comes from my mother for certain. But anyways, he says that the only thing he's ever said no to was when he was in Mexico and someone handed him a rat on a stick, but the rat still had fur on it. And that's the only reason he didn't eat it.
No.
Is because he's like, I'm not eating. I'm just not.
not doing it.
God. Oh. Ugh.
Yeah,
not gonna do it.
Like something from an Indiana Jones movie or something, and he's just like, no, I'm okay. But usually he always would try something, even if it still had claws and
Never
stuff,
know if you're gonna like
and
it.
looked very animal-like. If it still appeared to be the exact creature that you are eating, but the fur, just hard no.
Rats with the fur.
With the fur.